So Nostalgia Critic did one of his top 11 videos. I think it's the first one he's done in quite some time. And he talked about basically the top 11 remakes, live action wise, that Disney could do for animated movies that have yet to, head in that direction, or at least in production of heading in that direction. But due to the reputation they've had that precedes them, with the other live action movies, some of them may not be, the best, available, or the best to see, if you will. I mean, we know we get Peter Pan and Wendy, a remake of Disney's Peter Pan, in a couple of weeks on Disney Plus, but he also mentioned that we're getting Hunchback of Notre Dame and everything. And he did a decent top 11, Doug Walker did. He did a decent top 11 and gave legitimate reasonings as to why, Disney should think outside the box, when it comes to these potential live-action remakes, and especially when it comes to, let's say, getting a certain rating, if you will, for them. But, there were some movies he did talk about that, he felt deserves a live-action remake. And, I have no issue whatsoever with some of them that he mentioned. That was just my window closing right there. We have an alarm that lets us, know when its door or window is going to be open or closed. But yeah, he did bring up some that I was totally in agreement with, that I feel could, really benefit, from a live-action remake and Disney taking a chance on them. For example, he talked about the Black Cauldron and the fact that it's, that originally it's based on a series of books. Now, we know Disney doesn't have a problem following a trend that other studios have followed. In fact, if we forget, and we shouldn't, the Chronicles of Narnia, when it first began, I believe started as a Disney movie series or Disney adaptation. And then they got bought out by somebody else, but originally they were under Disney. They were released under Disney, which was pretty good. So they have no, I guess you could say, inexperience when it comes to doing book adaptations. So a Black Cauldron movie and maybe a series of movies and stuff, I think would be great. And it would borderline Disney doing something that they've yet to do. Because he did bring up that if Disney was to do an actual live action, because they are currently in production of doing a Hunchback of Notre Dame remake and everything, with a few differences here and there. But basically, he states that if they would take the live-action remake of Hunchback and maybe go in a different direction, a more darker direction, that they could potentially make history again, just like they did with the Pirates of the Caribbean. Because with the Pirates of the Caribbean, they made history by releasing the first PG-13 movie. So he looks at the fact that if they were to go in a darker direction with Hunchback, they can make history by making the first R-rated movie. Because, times are changing, and even companies like Disney that are mainly family-friendly at times need to basically, wake up and realize, maybe it's time to, aim for a more mature audience. I mean, if they're willing to put Deadpool on Disney Plus now with a mature audience rating option and everything, I think, they're pretty much already taking that step into that R-rated pool, if you will, of trying out new things, in my opinion. But the Black Cauldron, I definitely agree, would be a movie that they could definitely explore in live action, especially with a series of movies they can explore in live action. But also I believe it could be basically in that same vein that, Doug mentioned a darker version of Hunchback could be, and that is the fact that it could allow Disney to make a little bit of history by creating the first ever R-rated film. Because you got the horror elements and everything in there, the dark, mystical, magic, horror elements and all that. And, an R rating, I think, would suit it well. And yeah, Disney might get some flack for it at first, but if they come out and say, hey, we made history by crossing the line into PG-13, we're going to make history by doing it again. And they could even back it up by saying, hey, look, Disney Plus, we have R-rated stuff there too, under lock and key. You got to be at a certain age range or have a certain parental guidance, but we have that under lock and key. and everything, but it's there. It is there. So they'd have a decent argument to say, hey, this is why we're now we're exploring the R territory. He mentioned Atlantis, The Lost Empire. I think that would definitely benefit from one. I think that's been discussed to potentially get a live-action remake. So I wouldn't have a problem with Atlantis. I really wouldn't. He talked about a Goofy movie getting a live-action, kind of the live-action treatment like Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers movie did. I could see that. I really could. They could, I do agree, go the Brady Bunch route. I do agree with that. So I wouldn't have an issue with that. Other movies that he mentioned or didn't mention, I think could also, get a live-action treatment in the long run too. I mean, if we're going to be honest, I know they're talking about doing a Tarzan movie, so that's pretty much confirmed, and that's probably going to end up getting a PG-13 rating. There's no doubt. We know they're doing Lilo and Stitch, for Disney Plus, But he did mention Princess and the Frog and how they could basically change that around to where Tiana is not a frog and instead she's still human. And I think that could work, but I think if you want to keep it true to what it was, and Disney likes to do that, I think, you got to go that route. Other ones, honestly, I'm looking at my collection of movies right now, and to me, it looks like they've done just about, I wouldn't say they've done just about all of them, but it's close. For example, I know they're doing a Hercules film and all that. And they've done Mulan. I think the ones that most logically they've yet to touch, I know they're going to do a Moana one. We know that's happening. We know Moana is on the way. We know that. But if there's other films I think they could actually work with, I'm looking at maybe, because he mentioned Brave, but if anything, I'll be honest with you. Because I know they're talking about a Bambi one too, and I know they're working on Snow White. They've done Pinocchio, but I think you got Sword in the Stone. I think that'd be a great medieval remake, done right, and that could borderline PG-13. What else? What else is there? I think, honestly, they could do, man, the list is out there. I think they could do a Wreck-It Ralph and a Raya the Last Dragon. I think those would be good. Wreck-It Ralph would definitely lend itself to PG-13 maybe. Raya and the Last Dragon, definitely PG-13. So I could definitely see those movies, potentially getting that kind of a treatment. If you want to take a Disney animated series, I think the one fans have been wanting is Gargoyles. I think that's obvious. So I definitely would go with Gargoyles. And, I think last but not least, I think I would also go with Bonkers. I know it feels like it would be Roger Rabbit territory, but I would go with that. But that's just my thoughts on what I think should be live action and what I agree with on him when it comes to some of the ideas he came up with. But what are your thoughts? Let me know down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to y'all later.